So I'm not going to give away any quest spoilers because so much of HeroQuest is discovering this and navigating the quests, the dungeon, the stories yourself. But we've been exploring certain tactica, both from the perspective of the players and the Overlord, where points to keep in mind when you're dungeoning, when you're questing, when you're trying to figure things out. We were looking at character classes, we're looking at movement, we're looking at discovery. Now I want to talk about my favorite topic. Yes, it's about the tabletop glory, but Fritz wants the loot. I want all the gold. We are going to farm that dungeon and get everything that we absolutely can from it. But having a plan to do that and knowing, given the dungeon, when to possibly cut your losses. Easier said than done. One more room, just one more. We can do it. We've got the quest item. We found the dude. Yeah, Barbarian's got like 2 life left. And we have 0 heals left. But if we open that room up and something's there, Barbarian will get first strike. And then the Rogue will follow up. And then we'll blast with that last spell. We can do this, right? But knowing in the search of treasure when to possibly call it. So essentially, treasure breaks down into 3 variables. Essentially, gold, items, and artifacts. Now, artifacts are, of course, quest items, very, very powerful. I'm going to let you discover those. But it's a good day if you can recover a quest item. But in terms of gold is important because if you're playing HeroQuest in campaign mode, what I mean by that is you're playing the quests in order, or one quest carries out over another, or even if you're playing a bunch of quests that you've assembled or kind of random quests, the idea is in between each quest, you're able to spend gold in the armory, whether it's the standard one or a custom one. You're able to buy stuff to utilize in other quests. Likewise, you could play HeroQuest with a one-off, just pull out 4 heroes, go in the dungeon, depending on the skill level, depending on the dungeon. You could ahead of time say every character rolls for a random amount of gold and you buy stuff. I mean, there's a lot of different ways outside of the core rules. HeroQuest, the game system. It's important to remember, hey, this is a game system. You can do a lot with this. But in the core, there's this idea, you play the quest, you get the gold, you buy stuff, you go into the next quest until we make it to the end of the quest and then look for other quests to quest on. So discovery of gold is important. Now, many quests will say, this has happened, the king wants you to do this, go in here and do that, and the party will get 200 gold pieces. Now, many players, of course, you would just divide that by the number of players, but likewise, there is the possibility if it's 200 gold pieces, you could give that to 2 characters, to 1 character. You can divide that internally based on equipment, based on if the party needs something. But the game says complete the parameters and you get this gold. That's the first level of quest reward. You know, should you survive, you're going to get this base amount. Now, second to that, depending on the quest, again, no spoilers, is defined gold. There will be chests. It's a good day when Zargon pulls out a chest and puts that down. Usually in the chest are quest items or certain artifacts, but also regularly gold. So in the quest book, usually it's going to say, here's a chest in this room. You know, there's 50 gold in here. There's 100 gold in there. That's guaranteed gold. They don't appear in every room. They don't appear as often as a player would like, every 5th or 6th room. But there are a few sprinkled about the various quests. That's the second level, where it's a guaranteed amount. You just don't necessarily know the amount or where it is. The third level to gain gold, and this is kind of the layer that we have to navigate, searching for rooms. You defeat the monsters, you can decide, it's optional, to search. Now, search is interesting in that mixed in there are 4 types of cards, 4 groups of cards. The first, treasure cards. This is what we want. You find a small chest, you find a small pouch, you find a gem in a boot. It converts to gold pieces, 25, 50, whatever that amount's going to be. That's random. You don't know if you're going to get that. I won't say the majority, but many of the cards are these type of treasure rewards. Secondary treasure, of course, are potions and consumables, ways to buff your attacks, ways to heal. These are always good to find. You can always utilize these in the dungeon. And then the third group and the fourth group, or the third group and a subgroup, wandering monsters and hazards. Arrows, spikes, pits, and of course the monsters that spawn depend on the quest itself. You don't know that in the beginning, guaranteed. I mean, you might have an idea, right? Reading the quest, listening to the quest is important because even though it's only a paragraph, it really tells you a lot. Is it a crypt? What's the boss like? What are the main monsters that we might encounter? So if it's a crypt, going in there, I kind of have an idea the wandering monsters, the spawn monsters, are going to be undead. Or if it's orc raiders that have stolen something from the king and I'm going in to recover it, then probably the wandering monsters are going to be orcs. You can kind of figure that out. Of course, you won't know 100% until it's revealed, and once it's revealed, then you know what they are for the rest of the quest. But drawing these, of course, aren't treasure. So you're taking a risk. You are taking a risk by searching for treasure. It's not guaranteed, and it's a variable amount, but it is an important part of the game. You don't, even if you're not like totally greedy like I am, you don't necessarily want to go through the game and not search. You really don't, unless it's like the end quests in a campaign where you are so jacked up already and you're like, look, we're coming to the end. We're going to be fighting some serious monsters and bosses. We cannot afford to lose any life outside of combat and expend potions and expend healing spells. So we don't want to encounter at all random monsters, wandering monsters, or hazards and traps. I mean, that is a possibility, but midway or early in the campaign, you want all the gold that you can because you're going to take that gold, and we're going to explore a shopping vlog. You take that gold and certain items you buy, you have the buy-in. But there's also items that are consumable, potions. You want to have consumables because they're going to get you through some tough times. So there's this duality of you need to be treasure farming that you're getting gold because half of that's going to go to gear that you're going to keep. But the other half, you need that cash flow to keep buying potions to keep you in the game. Now, the wording of the quest to close it out for treasure hunting, this is where things get interesting. And I'm going to go into Tactica a little bit here from that perspective with Zargon because it is related to treasure because I'm trying to stop you if I'm the overlord, depending on where I'm sitting, in front of the screen or behind the screen. Some quests will say, without giving any spoilers away, go into the dungeon, find the artifact, and make it back through the exit. Return to the exit. That wording is very important. The wording is very important. Some quests end immediately when you do something. I kill a monster, I get an item. Others end when you make it out. So what this means is, if I go into the dungeon to recover an artifact, and let's say I explore half the dungeon. Let's say just randomly I make a couple of correct choices and I find myself obtaining the artifact. Well, there's other aspects of the dungeon to explore. Do I leave? Do we leave? Does the party leave right now? We've won the mission. We've completed that quest. So from that perspective on our gold checklist, I've completed the quest. If I leave right now, I will guaranteed get this amount of gold. Maybe based on the quest, there might be some chests. Maybe I've gotten one or two. Maybe one is still in there. But if there are also rooms that have yet to be discovered, do you want to farm those rooms? Do you want to just, rather than leaving right now, do one or two rooms and see what we can get? You're pushing your luck here in that, how wounded is the party? Do you still have a couple of heals? Is there a direct line where you can escape? So if you open up a room and it's really crazy in there, can you run away? So that aspect, when the game doesn't end, you sometimes sit down as the party and say, okay, from this perspective, with what's going on, what treasure is available? What is available? What do we want to farm? Now, likewise, what's interesting is if you're playing in a campaign with treasure, Sometimes with Zargon, you'll play, or the Overlord, you'll play missions where, okay, I'm not going to be able to beat the players. Then how can I deny them treasure? How can I choke off that line of gold, that line of credit? Because again, they're going to be buying gear, but they're also going to be buying consumables. And if they can't refresh their consumables at the end of every mission, that puts them, makes them a little bit more vulnerable going into the next quest. Likewise, can I at least kill a character? Can I kill somebody? Can I weaken the party in some way? Can I, if they've won the mission, okay, so now if they've won the mission and they have to exit the dungeon, I didn't lose. I mean, I lost, but the monsters are expendable. But can I get them through combat to use other potions, to use artifacts? Can I weaken them a little bit for the next game? So it does become tactical, and there's a lot from that perspective. But in terms of gold and treasure, it's an important part of the game, not only for the fun and thrill of discovery, but also realizing as you go, you need that cash flow. You've got those three types. You've got the guaranteed, complete the quest, this is what you get. You've got the defined, guaranteed treasure chests, but again, they're not in every quest, or they're hidden, they're spread out. And then you've got the most dangerous, but also the most frequent way, I won't say easy, most frequent way of getting treasure, which is discovering them through searching for the room, but you've got to deal with potentially monsters, and you've got to deal potentially with traps.